It is my esteemed pleasure to have Chad Elledge. He is over our IT department there at the bank, and have, since everything with Equifax and all that has been, all the compromises and all that we go through every day, I will turn it over to Chad, and he can give you some hard facts.
All right, well, thanks guys for having me today. I really appreciate it. I brought Billy and Kyle with me today. We all three work in the IT department. We've got another gentleman that works with us, and we did rock, paper, scissors, and I lost, so that's why I'm speaking today. So I just want to apologize in advance if it's boring. But
Kevin, the mic working?
Can you hear me?
Is the mic working? It's not turned on.
Better?
No.
He doesn't know much about electronics.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Test 1, 2.
Okay, can you?
Battery makes it better.
Very cool.
Hello?
No. Turn green and it flashes off.
Oh, if it flashes, the battery fades.
Yeah.
He's on to get battery.
Y'all want me to go ahead? Can I go ahead and start?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna move out here a little bit so y'all can hear me. The first thing I want to talk about is information security. Does everybody know what information security is? Okay. It is the, just so for those of you who don't know, what it basically boils down to is just, it's keeping your data safe. Information like your birth date, social security number, name, address, driver's license number, any of that is considered, that's your relevant data that can change. And so it's real important for financial institutions, credit bureaus like Equifax, Experian. It's real important for those to take good care of your data so that it doesn't get compromised and fall into the wrong hands, okay? And I've got a presentation that I had prepared for you guys, but we had a little technical difficulty with our iPad, so I'm going to export that and email that to all of y'all, because there's some websites that I've included that I want you guys to have at your disposal so you can check to see if you've got any issues or anything like that. But like I said, with a data breach, what a data breach is that when somebody either compromises the system by allowing the wrong person into their building to get on their computer, or whether they don't patch their systems, put the security updates in place, and somebody can hack into their computer system, like some war games where they hack on the system and they can change grades and do all kinds of stuff. That's what a data breach is considered. But another area that's a data breach is also if you let somebody into your building and you've got all your information on QuickBooks with your credit card, statements, and everything on there, somebody walks in, sits down at your desk, that's considered a data breach, okay? And that's something that most of the people that work at the banks, we fight that all the time, but it's one of those things that the ordinary person doesn't realize how sensitive this is and how easy it is to get out. But basically, like I said, what we're talking about is social security number, birthday, because that's all you need to it's the pertinent information to get a credit card, to get a loan, different things like that. So those are the real things that we're concerned about getting out. A couple of big data breaches that you guys have heard of course, y'all have heard of the Target breach. Were any of y'all affected with that, with your debit cards? A few of you, maybe. We had several debit cards compromised on that, and of course it's not the bank's fault, it's not the credit card issuer's fault, it's Target's fault. But normally the banks will reissue, your credit card company will reissue you a data, will give you a new debit card to replace your old one, so that they say it's a clean number. One of the things that people don't realize is that there's a whole underground on the internet. It's called the dark web, and that's where people go to get, you can buy stolen credit card numbers, you can buy them, anything you want basically on the dark web. And a lot of the seminars that we're going to, they're talking about this, and there's even a company, a guy that we know from Nacogdoches, that he specializes in this, and he goes after hours and buys these debit card bins that have all these numbers on there to try to fight the problem of people stealing these credit card numbers, but that's a whole nother seminar that we won't even talk about. But the biggest one that you guys have heard about is the Equifax breach. They estimate, as of yesterday, I did some research, it was 143 million people affected by that breach. That's a lot of people. According to the data, they stole 209,000 credit card numbers, and they stole, it looks like they stole 182,000 dispute documents. Like if you had a charge on your credit card, I didn't make this charge to Target, I didn't buy this at Cabela's, I tried playing that on my wife a couple of times and it doesn't work. She didn't buy it, but usually mine's at Best Buy or Amazon. But anyway, usually if there's a fraudulent charge, the companies will ask you to fill out some documents that make you put a lot of personal information. 182,000 of those documents were stolen for 182,000 people. So this is a big time deal. One of the things that they will talk about is that there's a website that you can go to, and like I said, I'm going to send this out, and you can put in the last 6 of your social. Sweet. Does that work? Okay. Good deal. There's a website that you can go to now. For Equifax has created a website where you can put in your last 6 of your social and your birthday, and it'll tell you if you're on the list, if your card's been compromised, or your identity has been compromised. Do any of y'all, would any of y'all be willing to share if y'all know for a fact that you've been on this list? I'm sure nobody wants to admit that, but it's Equifax's fault. It's not anybody but Equifax's fault. It just happens. And the big deal right now is that they're saying with most of these big companies, it's not a matter of if they get breached, it's a matter of when it's going to happen and how bad it's going to be. The problem that happened with Equifax was that they had some software in place on one of their web servers, and they knew about that they had an update for it, and it took them 2 months to make the decision to patch it. And so when you have something out on the internet, it's very important that you keep it updated with the latest information. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But with my presentation, I've included the website that you can go to check to see if your information was hacked. Right now, they're offering some credit monitoring, free credit monitoring for you if you're on the list. I read things on both sides of the equation where they don't really recommend you doing that, because if you take their offer, it does not let you sue them on down the line. It kind of holds them harmless if there's, it could get a lot worse than it is now. And they're saying that you need to use a LifeLock, or typically that your bank or your credit card company all offer an identity theft service, and that's what they recommend that you use to cover that. Does that make sense to everybody? I know this is kind of boring stuff. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Have they figured out where the hack came from?
Yes, sir. What happened was they have web servers that they have that sit on the internet when people run your credit. When they're running your credit, if you're getting a car loan or getting a house loan, they'll run your credit. And what happened is they had a vulnerability on their web server, and hackers were able to penetrate that vulnerability, and that's how they got in and stole the information.
Did they figure it out from where, what country that hack came from?
I don't remember. And I was kind of intrigued at the fact that some of their executives sold their stock before they announced it. I kind of got into that deal, but anyway, that's what I'm hearing. So anyway, I've got some other information too in my presentation where if you find out that you're on the list of different things to do, if you're on the list, the first thing is that they recommend now that you put a freeze or a fraud alert on your credit if you've been compromised, and you guys can, tell me if y'all don't agree or whatever, if y'all got a different view on this. But from Federal Trade Commission, they were recommended that you put a fraud alert on your credit. They have a freeze ability now where if you want to go apply for a loan, they can give you a PIN number that lets somebody check your credit, but it alerts the companies and the banks to let them know that you're not, that your identity has been compromised, and that people are trying to use your identity in different places. But people that I've known that have been through this, it's really, it's tough to get through. So, but they've got some good tools in place to help you now. They also recommend that if you that you watch your statements, if you watch for any miscellaneous charges that don't normally get put on there, they want you to call the companies and report it to them, because that's the easiest way that they can track it down, is by doing that. So, and then they also recommend that you work with your bank or your credit card company to help you fight that as well. I know that we help customers all the time that have been victims of this, and we do a lot, and I know that Gilmer National does too, and we also have some backing through MasterCard Visa on that as well. So, does anybody have any questions about that? It's a tough deal. The next thing I wanted to talk about is that if somebody's, like I said, if somebody's using your identity, it's really important to get it out there. A lot of people will not report it to the police or the Federal Trade Commission, and that's going to be your best bet of trying to fight it, because that gives them some more teeth. Because chances are, if they've gotten your information or are making charges on your account or your credit, they're doing it to about 100 other people as well. And those reports really give those companies teeth as far as going after people. So that's why I really wanted to go over that pretty good. The next part that I want to talk about is, do y'all have any questions about information security or anything that I've just talked about? If not, the next thing I want to talk about is safe computing, and this is something that we get a lot of questions about at the bank, as far as what's the safest way for me to conduct business on my computer. And a lot of people ask a lot of questions as far as, how do I know if what the computer I'm using is safe? How do I know if it doesn't have ransomware or different things on there that it gets compromised? And the key to doing for safe computing, there's 3 or 4 different things that you can do to make sure that you're safe. The first thing is that when you set up your online banking account or even your Amazon account, use a strong password. Use a combination of an uppercase, a lowercase, and a numeric number. You can also use a special character, and one of the things they all hate us at the bank because we've extended ours now where it's 14 characters, and so everybody has a hard time remembering 14 characters. So some of the things that we recommend people doing are think of a sentence, or like use Gilmer Bud Guys, but replace the I's with ones, replace the E's with 3's, different things like that to make your password not a dictionary word, because one of the things that these hackers do is they get dictionary words or common passwords and then run them against your computer to try to see if they can crack your passwords. So that's typically how they're compromised. Another way that passwords are compromised, or if you use the Save Password feature in Chrome or Internet Explorer. Have any of y'all seen that? When you go into your online banking and they ask if you want to save your password for later, there's an exploit now on Chrome where people are getting in and they're able to retrieve everybody's username and password if you've got it, if your computer gets infected with it. So we always tell people not to do that. We always also tell them not to change their password every 90 days or so, to ensure that if somebody does get on your computer and they can get your information, but if you changed your password since they've gotten it, then it kind of protects you. Or if it's not out there in the first place, then it doesn't give them any. Those hackers are typically lazy in general, and they try to go for the easy, low-hanging fruit targets. And so if you're taking steps to try to protect your data, those guys typically will go on to the next guy. So does that make sense? The next thing that I would recommend as well is a lot of y'all have Wi-Fi at home, wireless network at home or at your office. It's really important to password protect your wireless network, especially to using a complex password like I just talked about, because people, we've seen instances with I've read about several different instances where these hackers are going and they're sitting on a network. It's real bad at the schools too, because the school typically will have what they call an open network where anybody can hop on, And these people are getting on there, and these computer hackers, and then you're using their wireless network at a Starbucks, and this guy's sitting over there watching all the traffic that goes across, and he's getting your information as you go across. So we always recommend for people not to do any kind of secure transaction with online banking. Don't pay any bills, don't order anything off Amazon if you're on an open network, because people are out there and they are doing things like that. And I know that this sounds kind of crazy, but it's true, and we're seeing it happen all the time. The third thing that I would recommend that you guys do is, how many people have an iPhone, like right now? Are y'all on iOS 11? On the latest update? Okay. There are already some vulnerabilities in that, and if you notice, they've already released a couple of other patches to iOS 11. Very important that you take those updates and do those updates, because especially when they come out with a new release of the software, the first thing people do is they figure out where the issues are with it, and then they start trying to exploit the vulnerability. So it's very important that any kind of iPhone or iPad or Apple TV or any laptops, different things like that, it's real important for you to take those updates. And a lot of people, does anybody in here still run Windows XP? Please tell me no. Please tell me no one has that. Don't get on the internet. That operating system, I know everybody loved it. It was a super product, but its time has come and gone, and they do not make updates for it anymore. And
I had been updated for over a year.
yeah. I mean, you got somebody in the business too. You're golly, can't help them. But in all seriousness, if you've got a Mac, Macs are there's issues with Macs too, and everybody says, "I've got a Mac, I don't need to run antivirus." Well, I kind of think it's a good idea for you to run antivirus on it, because they've got some issues with those too. Yeah, sorry. I know it's hard to run now. How many of you guys have smart? Have you ever heard of a smart home device? Does anybody know what that is? Anybody got a Nest thermostat?
Where you clap your hands and the light goes off?
Yeah. Well, no, it's the next one after that. But you tap on your phone and it turns your lights on and off, or heaven forbid you put your door locks on that, or your garage door opener, and it'll open your house up. Have y'all seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. Those are called IoT devices, Internet of Things. Amazon is testing a product right now called Amazon Key, and if you have a supported lock, what they will do is they will graciously deliver your package to you, and it will unlock your door and let the person put the device in, put whatever package inside your house. That's alarming to me on multiple different levels. I don't think I want that. They said that they'll video the transaction while the guy comes to your house. They'll video all of that, but I'm not on board with that at all. I'm okay. I've got the deal at my house where I can turn my lamps on and off, but the worst thing they could do to me is turn all my lights on in the middle of the night. That's the worst thing that's going to happen. I don't put my door locks on it, not put my thermostat on. I don't want them to run me out of the house. But they're saying there's a lot of vulnerabilities in these devices right now. Anybody have a Fire Stick or Roku? Love them. They're great, but there's issues with those devices as well. So it's real important. What my point is that it's all of these devices, if they can connect to the internet and they are not updated regularly, then you are vulnerable to different attacks possibly. So it's real important that if you have a Fire Stick or you have a Roku, it's real important to keep them updated. And they'll prompt you whenever it's time to update it. And a lot of times, like I'll tell you, my parents, they'll hit no. They don't want to fool with it because they don't want anything looking different. I don't want to fool with it. And I said, no, you need to do it, because if there's something that goes wrong and they take advantage of your system, you'll lose your data. So it's real important to keep your stuff. That's probably the most important thing you can do, is keeping your devices up to date. So that's why I'm kind of harping on it, sorry. But the last thing that I would tell you, the next to last thing I would tell you is it's real important to run antivirus on your stuff, on any of your devices. It's not as big a deal for an iPad or an iPhone, but for anybody that's got a Windows laptop, do you know for a fact that your virus definitions are updated on your laptop? Do you all know that? And if they're not, and you're not on the latest version, I would go check as soon as I got back, because they've got some real nasty, they call them malware out now. There's one called a crypto locker, and I will tell you, we've lost several nights sleep over them, because you just don't, they're saying at the seminars that we've been to, they're saying that you can get infected with this malware and it'll lay dormant on your system for like 90 days. And after that, then it encrypts your whole system, and these people will want, bad guys will want $500 to $1,500 to unlock your computer. So, I mean, you know, I don't want to spend $1,500 unlocking my computer and then chancing that it might not fix it. Because typically what they're saying is that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And anyway, that's a huge scam going on right now. And I can tell you, there's 2 hospitals that we know of in the U.S. I know 2 hospitals within 30 minutes of here that have gotten it and have experienced more than 12 hours of downtime. And if you think about downtime at a bank, it's pretty scary. Downtime at a hospital is real scary. So it's real important. Anybody's business information is real important to keep it protected. But you know, when you start getting into personal data and all that, it's very scary, because at that point, that data is going into somebody else's hands, because you're putting, you're trusting your data with these people to try to unlock it. Has anybody heard of crypto locker? Y'all heard about that? It's real scary stuff. And so it's very, very important. On the antivirus software, I know a lot of people will say, well, I'm using Windows Defender, so I'm good. No, that's not true. It's real important. One of the things that I've noticed as well is that there are some free versions that you can get, but to be honest with you, you really get what you pay for. There's several of them that you can get. One from WebRoot is really good. My dad's the worst about surfing the internet. He just goes everywhere, picks up everything. You know, you'll go over there and he'll have 700 items on his quarantine list, because he just picks up stuff. He goes to Gunbroker and goes to eBay and just picks stuff up along the way. So I was trying to use the free stuff to try to protect him, and I've had to reload his computer several times. Well, this time around I said, no, we're going to buy some good stuff, and so we're like cool with it. And sure enough, it's been really good for him. It's really protected him. So you really get what you pay for with the antiviruses. And nobody wants to spend $40 on it, but it's well worth it if you do. The last thing that I want to talk about is backing up your devices. Do y'all know for a fact that your phones are backed up?
Yep.
Everybody knows that. No question. Everybody's using iCloud. If you're on Apple, you should be using iCloud. Okay. If you're using Android, there's a Google. You should be using Google, the Google Store, to back yours up. So most people are using iPhones, and your iPad the same way. One of the big deals too is, have you guys thought about what would happen if you lost all your pictures? How do you back your pictures up? Google. Have y'all looked at Google? Have you looked at Google Photos? It's a great product. It's free. You wouldn't like it because of the resolution. It backs them up at a lower resolution. But the neat thing about the Google Photos is that it will back up its standard resolution, not a high resolution. But one of the things you can do is, if you went to Disney World, anytime you take a picture, it puts a tag on the picture of where you were when you had the picture made. Y'all know that? And what will happen is that if I type in pictures at Disneyland, it'll pull up all those pictures. That's a good thing, and it's a bad thing, because Google knows where you've been. And so when Google has access to your email, has access to your pictures, I'm just saying it's not a good or a bad thing. It's just something that you need to be aware of as part of, we call it your digital footprint. It's real important to just know where you stand with everything. But I think Google Photos is a good option. iCloud Photos is a great. I actually back it up to iCloud and Google just to make sure I don't mess something up. But you know, nowadays everybody's pictures, if you lose your pictures, you're in trouble, or if you lose all your phone contacts. And you can back all those up to the cloud as well, just in case something happens to your phone. I've seen people drop their phone in the commode, and of course it's done, and you have to get a new one. But if you've got it backed up, you just, you know, get a new one, load from your backup, and you're back off to the races. But the people that I've seen that have done that haven't been that lucky. I actually had one day that I left it on the counter and it fell in the sink, and I lost it that way. But anyway, it's just real important to keep your stuff backed up. I just want to be sure that everybody's aware of the different things that you can do to protect yourself, and that's really all I had. If you do these things, or make it a good faith effort to do those things that I talked about with the antivirus updates, security updates, backing up your device, and staying off of the questionable networks, if you do all those things, your chances are you might get hit, but your chances go way, way down, especially if you do more than one of these things. So the ability to recover from it is much easier. So, do y'all have any questions? I try to keep it kind of short so I won't bore everybody. Yes, sir.
Jeff, talking about back up or backing up, I don't understand very much about that, but I'm under the impression that if you have an iPhone and you have an iCloud account or whatever, that it automatically backs up. I mean, when it,
No, sir. There's a setting under your iCloud. If you'll go to settings, and then you'll tap on your name at the top, and then there's an option for backup under that. It'll say on or off. Typically, one of the things that a lot of people run into, like my in-laws have run into this, where they both use the same iCloud account, and he starts getting her texts and she's getting his texts. Have y'all seen anything like that? And the way that Apple's recommended way of handling that is each person has their own iCloud account, because what happens is Apple is trying to make things easier so you can get your texts on your iPad and on your device and on your Mac. But when people share those devices, they not only share their texts, where you get everybody's texts, you also are only given 5 gigs of backup space, and typically your phone's going to chew up to 5 gig. So they end up having to buy more space. So I would recommend each person in your family using their own iCloud account, and then setting up the family sharing for your digital music and things like that. Did that help? Pretty good?
I'll have to talk to you personally.
I'll talk to you.
Chad, you might want to also talk about like what we do with iPads and PCs.
One of the things that the bank has, that our bank has recently implemented is that how many of you guys have used your work laptop for home stuff? I mean, everybody feel free on it, different things like that. One of the things that we've started doing is that we utilize, we got iPad Pros for several of us at the bank, and we do our director's books on them and different things for meetings. But one of the things that I've started recommending to people is that the newest version of an iPad Pro, you can pretty much do anything you want on a laptop, from video editing, photo editing. You can do pretty simple email, and pretty simple any kind of word processing. You can do anything on this that you can do on a laptop, and it's much easier to keep updated. And if you can run your cell phone, then you can run an iPad. And so I actually, if I do any kind of personal stuff, like looking up like for this, I did it all on my iPad, so it made it a little bit easier. I could surf on the internet. I didn't have to worry about junking up my laptop with malware or a virus. I was able to stay. The safest way that you can protect your laptops, like your business laptops, is to stay off the internet on them. And so if you can use your phone or an iPad or a tablet to get on the internet, that you know this is the only thing, and you know you've got it backed up, and that's your best bet if you can do that. So that's how we've been able to utilize these, and we also utilize them. They've got some note-taking functionality where you can write on them, different things like that. But there's nothing I can't do on this that I can't do on a laptop, and it costs, and it's cheaper than a laptop as well. So
Okay.
anyway, hope I didn't go through all too much. So.
Good.